Yes, there's sound. There's sound.
Jai Ma. Jai Ma Anand. Yeah, so it doesn't ring. So, Jai Ma. Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devya Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindevyo Sarvalokaya Mangalam Om Stapakaya Chadarmasya Sarvadharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Mangalam Om Sarashiva Samarambam Shankarachara Majjamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Bande Gurum Paramparam Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Devo Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Guru Namaha. Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha. Sri Hari Jai Ma. This is on? I don't think it's on. Jai Ma. We on? Okay. Okay. So continuing in our many-part series on Introduction to Kali Puja, which of course started as one simple talk, as a bird's eye view of Kali Puja, but it turns out it's either Kali Puja is more complicated than one talk, or I'm more complicated. And so I don't know. But it's been a fascinating discussion. So last week we were joking, we've joked for years that we've given like 9 years of talks on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the essence of the Bhagavatam is Krishna Lila. And not until this year did we mention Krishna once. Right? It takes a long time before the Krishna Lila. So similarly, we've been talking Kali Puja, I don't know, 16, 17 meetings now. That's an hour and a half per meeting. That's many hours. And last week is the first time we mentioned Kali, actually. We was her, the Antar Pitanyasam, the consecration of the inner shrine, and then the Vishari Nyasa, her Viniyoga mantra for the Kali mantra, the Anga, the Nyasa of the fingers and the limbs of the Kali mantra, and then the external worship. Did we get to the external? I'm not sure if we did or not. No, it comes later. That comes later. The external Nyasa of the that's later. Yeah. So that's actually the beginning of the actual Kali Puja is just now beginning. Although it's taken months and months and months and months to get to this point of description. And even in puja, most of the puja, if you come on Amavasya or even daily puja, most of the puja is what we've done so far. That's the gist of the most of the puja. The actual worship of Kali, it's a few mantras, right? The other day, Staneshwar, he mentioned something like this, that to do we witnessed a beautiful installation Shiva Lingam at Devahuti and David's house. They installed a Shiva Lingam when the wonderful Pandit came. And he mentioned actually the mantra to install the deity, it takes a few moments to chant, but it was 6-7 hours of preparation. If you prepare the container, then it's easy. Then the deity manifests. So similarly, all this we've been doing is preparation for this. Now, what we're doing now, the actual meditation, invocation of Kali. Last week we mentioned first we consecrate her shrine, her seat, where she's going to sit. So in traditional worship, we offer all the items you would offer to a respected guest. So minimally, you can offer somebody a seat, right? So what is it? Bashum. What is it? Boshum. Please at least sit down, right? Have a glass of water, right? There's a statement actually, even an enemy can be offered a glass of water and a place to sit, right? Minimally, What to speak of an honored guest, right? So all this is part of, and in Sanskrit in the puja, it's idam asanam, may come and sit here and accept our worship. But first you have to create, and you can't invite somebody to sit unless you can create a place for them to sit, right? So before you invite a guest, you have a guest coming over, what do? You clean. Or if you have a guest staying over, that's even more tricky. You have to clean, you have to create a room, put new sheets, all that stuff. You have to prepare. You can't just sleep somewhere over there, So a lot of this is the preparation of creating the asan, right? So now who we're inviting to sit. So we've created first the internal altar, the internal seat. We talked a lot about that last week. We're working our way to culminate in the external seat. And we mentioned last week also, but since last week it's been rotating in my mind that the significance of this point. We usually think, we have to move from the external worship to internal worship, right? And that we have to, and we always hear, and I said that this is a bit of a prejudice of the yogi, of a certain type of yogic presentation, that realize, of course, and it's true, our Guruji used to also say that if you don't find God within your heart, you won't find him anywhere else, right? But that even in that statement, if you don't find God within, you won't find him anywhere. It means the goal is to find him anywhere. To find him anywhere, you have to find him within, right? So the goal of meditation isn't to find him within, it's to find him within so that you can find him everywhere or anywhere, right? So it's not structured that first you do external worship and then you do internal worship. No, first you do internal worship, and then after you've successfully meditated and invoked the deity within, seen her, loved her, held her, right? Then, and worshipped her with all aspects of your being, then you worship her externally, right? The culmination of the puja is the external worship, not the internal worship. So it's a different perspective, I think it's a pretty important point. So, as we've done through all the preliminary worship, we worship Guru, Ganesha, Surya, Narayan, Shiva, Durga, Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Vivekananda, and Baneshwara. Up to this point, right? Each one we've done the same thing. We hold the flower in Kurma Mudra. We've talked about this before, and you meditate on their Dhyana Mantra, a verse, a description of their form. It's like Lord Surya is wearing a certain type of garlands, golden jewelry, sitting in the circle of the sun on a load. There's ways to meditate like this. Shiva has so many arms with 5 heads and 3 eyes. It describes like that. We meditate on those forms, and we've talked a lot about Dhyana Mantras to visually hold them. And then we put the flower on the shrine, and then feeling that they're also within whatever we're worshiping, the Shiva Lingam or the Shalagram Shila, the Yantra or the altar like that. And then we offer the 5-item. We've been offering 5-item worship, which is perfume, flower, incense, light, and food. This is called the Pachara Puja. So we've done this for each of the deities with 5 items because we're culminating in the worship of Kali with 16 items, right? And so if you worship, there's a 5-item worship, there's a 10-item worship, and a 16-item worship. So according to how you worship the main deity, the goal of your puja, you worship the preparatory deities are worshipped with appropriately less puja, right? So if you're doing a 5-item worship of Kali, like in the small Kali book, this is a 5-item puja, worship of Kali. So Guru, Ganesha, Surya, they all get 1 flower. At the Ganda Pushpa, they get 1-item worship, a flower, right? If you do a 10-item worship, they'd get 5-item worship. It moves up like this, right? So we've done, so now we're preparing to do the 16-item worship, or 10 or 16-item worship of Kali. And so when we meditate, now we're not just visualizing, chanting the mantra to visualize her, and then doing the puja. It's a little more complex. First, we visualize her with the Dhyan mantra and trying to hold the image in the mind, right? And then you maybe have seen we're doing puja, we put a flower on our head. This flower is put on the head. Now, I'm not sure, it's done at Dakshina Shore, it's done in Ramakrishna Mission, that's common in puja. I'm not sure if it's always been common in puja. I know Sri Ramakrishna used to do this. And usually the way the literature is, it's like, oh, it was scandalous. He put the flower on his own head, that should be at Ma's feet. Right, so and it was like his own thing, and should we correct him? Some priests wanted to correct him, and then the Rani Rasmi said, no, don't correct him. He's a unique priest. Mother, by his devotion, Ma's going to awaken, right? Like this. I'm not sure if that's such a controversial thing, putting the flower on their head, but the idea there is because where is Ma's feet? Ma sits on top of the head, or Ma is within the body. So this body is the shrine. So this is where we put the internal flower is put first on the head. And so we worship her by put the same flower, instead of putting it on the shrine, you put it on the head, and you visualize through a series of guided visualizations all the items that you do in puja, 1-item, 5-item, 10-item, or 16-item, or 54-item, 64-item, 32-item, or 64-item puja. They're all done internally. Through bhava, through emotion and feeling and sentiment and visualization, right? And then that's with that's complete, then you've done the internal worship. Now we have to do external worship. So then the same nyasa we've done to consecrate the shrine, and the same nyasa we've done to consecrate the hands and the body, are now done externally to the external shrine, making the internal and the outside and the inside, the external altar, a yantra or lingam or image, and the internal altar of our seat of consciousness, identical, correspondence. Where if you do something to one, you're doing it to the other. We don't know how to. We try to do it mentally internally, but we don't know how to do. We can do it externally, and it happens internally. We do it internally, and it happens externally. We make it identification, correspondence between the inner and outer shrine, right? And then now, the one that we try to see within, we open our eyes and see her without. Here she is, right? Of course, first here she is, and then here she is. But here she is a little hard. The idea that God's everywhere, that's the truth. That every scripture says. And if it doesn't say that, it's not worth the price, on the side of the road, to buy such a book. It's like God is everywhere. But while God is everywhere, and therefore, actually, we can even make a bolder statement, there's only God everywhere. So it's not that we see that God's within the world. There's only God. There's no second person here. I'm sorry to say. I'm already lonely, but this is even lonelier. There's only one person here, But being the only person here and seeing only her, we don't see her. That's the problem, right? So we have to train ourselves. We have to know what to look for, right? I remember I've used this example. We have a Guru Bhai. In many, many years ago when I was 16, 17 years old, Swamiji held up he had this picture. It was like a trick type of thing and he said, what do you see here? And he held it up. And you see dots, right? But if you see properly, actually it's a picture of Jesus. It's an obvious classical silhouette of Jesus. It's a crown of thorns or something like that. It was obviously Jesus, based on an ancient recognizable painting. But I look at it and I didn't see anything. Right? He says, anybody see it? Anybody see it? And a few people, I see it. And other people, anybody see it yet? And he said, okay, now look at the light color, look at the light dots, not the dark dots. It's like, oh, I see it. Anybody else? It took me a long time. But once you see it, then you see it. Right? Then you see it's like a trick of how to focus. You're actually looking at a picture of Jesus, but if you don't know how to look at it or what you're looking for, you don't see Jesus. Right? But once you see Jesus, it's hard not to see Jesus in it. But it's tricky. He held it up the next week. The journal report, and I studied it. I don't see it again. It's easy to forget. We have to practice again and again. Govindam. So we see only Ma, but we don't see Ma because we see a world. So how to train? So this is a system. First you train to see her, visualize her, feel her within, right? And then we try to see her, visualize her, feel her, pray to her, in where she's obvious, like she say, here she is, right? Or Krishna was in a temple where everything is focused, all the attention is focused to try to see God in a place where God has been made obvious, right? And then, according to the devotional literature, it says, then we see the deity, try to see that same deity. It's not easy to jump into seeing the deity in the world, right? So Sri Ramakrishna made a very beautiful statement. He says, well, God's everywhere, no doubt, right? We can say it like that. Who would not want to say? Sri Ramakrishna wouldn't say God isn't everywhere. God's everywhere, right? But there's a special manifestation in the hearts of a devotee, right? He said that many, many times, right? He says he called it his living room, right? Like this is not his mom's house, but let's say this is my house or your house. You could say, where do you live? Oh, in this house. And you could say you live everywhere in this house, right? Your presence is everywhere in this house. But there may be a place where you hang out, the place where you're most comfortable, right? Your living room, perhaps, or wherever your kitchen table is, where your house. So he says, so Sri Ramakrishna said, the devotee's heart is God's living room, is his comfortable place where he specially manifests. And there's many beautiful mystical, poetic examples of to us to feel this, where there's like one example that says, well, like God is infinite, right? And holds the infinite universes as a speck within him, right? It's like it says, Aman in the Litatricity, from her sidelong glance, trillions of universes are created, right? So not just our universe, every imaginable universe is a speck within the infinitude of God, right? So he holds everything, she holds everything. Yet in some strange way, by bhava perhaps, maybe not mathematically, but maybe mathematically, a devotee holds God in their heart, right? Because when we hold God in our heart, we're holding the full, in some sense, the full God, not just an aspect, right? So the devotee, God holds the universe, and we hold God, right? So of course, we can't start preaching devotees are greater than God, but devotees are greater than God. There is the bhava. The bhava is higher than tattva here, higher than the feeling and sentiments, higher than the mathematical computations. So we try to feel God within, then try to feel God in the temple, in the consecrated image, Archana Vigraha, the worshipped image, the installed image, the consecrated image, right? Then we try to see God, hopefully, in the hearts of the devotees. This is something people skip, unfortunately. I see God in the temple and I see God in the world. People suck, right? And the devotees in my church are the worst of them all. I have my list of grievances. Actually, other people may be bad, but I don't know them well. But the people in my temple I know very well, so I've kept a very good list of all their faults. So that's a danger. We sometimes skip the devotee part. Final sip. Right, and then the ultimate is to see God everywhere. We mentioned Swami Chaitananda's new book just came out. See God with open eyes. Right, that's the real goal. Anybody can. And then Sri Ramakrishna will joke sometimes. He says the yogis close their eyes and they see darkness. Then he joked, we may not see God, but we eat very good food. Right? Joking like that. Meaning we have fun with the devotees. Right? It's like that's the thing. Whatever. It's like, oh, the yogi. Sri Ramakrishna was beyond a yogi. We may not see God, right? But we don't see only darkness, right? We play in so many different ways. So the point I'm trying to make in too strained of a way is that to see God with open eyes, to see God everywhere is not an easy thing, right? So maybe some people just like once I show you the picture, people immediately see Jesus in the picture. Great, that's sudden realization, right? To some of us, we have to practice a little bit. Look at this, look at that, look again. Do you see it? Look at they train do this to your, close one eye and try to focus on something else. Slowly you get to see it. You get to see the Jesus in the picture, right? But so this is an ancient and authentic and tested method. All right, puja is one of the methods to do this. right? So first so in the puja, we'll internal puja, then we worship in the image, but it's not just there. Then what do we do the rest of the time? There's a thing maybe you've heard, and hopefully you haven't said. Right? I'll judge you very harshly if you have said such a thing, but hopefully you haven't said. I've heard many times that I don't go to temples because God's everywhere. Right? And that's an interesting thing. It's fine. You don't have to go to temple. You don't go to temple because you're not interested in going to temples, not because you see God everywhere. Right? It's like, so really I sometimes rephrase it, perhaps slightly not fair to everybody's what people mean by it, but my sarcastic way of rephrasing people's views is there. I don't go to a temple. I won't see God any specific place because he's everywhere. Right? Another way of saying that is I don't see God anywhere because he's everywhere. That's the problem, right? God's everywhere, therefore I don't see him anywhere. I won't bow to anything. I won't respect shrines. I don't respect holy people. I don't care about scriptures and mantras and churches and crosses and people's emotions and feelings and sentiments and like that because God's everywhere, right? It's like, that's a weird stance, right? So this is not our stance. We're trained to, God's everywhere, including here, or God exists everywhere, Thakur said, but the devotee's heart's his special place, right? So a temple is a special place, a consecrated place, right? A shrine, your shrine is a consecrated place, special place. So this is the method. So now we'll mention the Dhyan Mantra for Dakshina Kali. In the small Kali Puja book, there's a small, short, appropriately short Dhyan Mantra, which I'll recite. It's holding a flower in Kurma Mudra. Meghangim Gatambaram Shavashivarudham Trinitram Param Karnalamba Nrimunda Yugma Bhayanam Munda Srajam Bhishanam Vamadhora Karambuje Nara Shiraha Kadam Cha Savyetare Dana Bhiti Vimukta Keshanitchayam Vande Sara Kalikam. This is a very short form of a longer mantra. I mean, it appears you'll find this mantra in many places. I'll just give a simple. I'm going to go step by step to the longer version, which include all the points. But because it's in the small book, and maybe we only have the small book, we meditate eternally. Vande Sara Kalikam. We always worship Sara Kalika. Always worshiping Kali, the auspicious Kali, dark as a storm cloud, Meghangim, enclosed in space, Vikatambaram. Shiva lies beneath her feet like a corpse. Shava Shiva Rudham, Tinitram Param, with 3 eyes and supreme, transcendental, frightening and awesome to behold. She is decorated with earrings and a garland of skulls. She holds a sword in her upper left hand, a human head in her lower left hand, and assures fearlessness and offer boons the pose of her upper and lower right hands. Her hair is long and disheveled. Disheveled? That right? Disheveled, thank you. I didn't say it right. It didn't sound right. Disheveled. Right. So this is a very simple description. That Ma Kali is dark as a storm cloud. This is actually this shama color. It's not just black, and it's not blue, right? It's actually storm cloud color, and it helps if you spend a lot of time. Of course, it helps if you live in a country that has like a monsoon. It's a monsoon cloud, right? And it actually rained like a few days ago, a rare event in California. But I remember I spent a lot of time staring at rain clouds, and so you slowly get that color. It's black, blue, and gray. It's interesting. I know the exact color because my Krishna in my room is exactly that color. In case you're wondering, it took many trials to get the exact Shama color. If you want to know what God's color actually is, you can go to my room, find out exactly his exact shade. Right. So she's black. She has long disheveled hair. She has a garland of skulls and 4 arms, holding here sword, severed head, and giving Abhaya Mudra and Vara Mudra. Right. So that's a simple form. The long Dhyan Mantra is from the same text called the Tantra Sada. Now it's interesting. Kali is mentioned in many texts. Kali is mentioned, according to some, one of the earliest records of her name specifically is connected to goddess Kalaratri, who's part of the Navadurgas, who's there, right? and she's mentioned in the Mahabharata with a very inauspicious act of the killing of, who was it? Some children were killed in the tent. What's the...
Ashwatthama killed.
Yeah, so that scene, right? And in it, it mentioned the Kalaratri has come, and that's her first, one of the earliest. Maybe I can say this correctly, perhaps. That's the earliest Puranic reference of the Shastras to her, and it's very inauspicious. She comes as Kalarat, as the night of death, right? And this is the very and not an auspicious scene, right? But it's seen. She's an inauspicious scene, but she becomes recognized as the transcendental goddess. So already from her earliest records, she appears. I was saying the other day, we had a student from a local high school come for a class, right? And I was saying, she was asking about, I said, it's a little gothic, our version, a little Halloweeny, I always say. It's like, it's the kind of darker side of it, of way of conceptualizing or a revelation of divinity. So that's her earliest, and then she's mentioned in the Chandi. In the Chandi, Kalika comes out of the anger of Ma Durga, Ambika, right? She frowns and a light comes and she becomes Kali, and then she's described quite horrible by external markings. It's like thin, emaciated, as old and withered body and hanging breasts, and her ribs piercing through her skin, holding her different types of weapons, a strange skull top staff, one of weapons. Very, it's like in very, and so and many texts you'll find different descriptions of her, and there's different images of Kali you see that aren't this image, right? But this image has won out, right? A four-armed Kali, right, holding a sword, a severed head, and giving Abhaya Mudra and Varana Mudra, right, boons and fearlessness. So, but this form is not that old. Right. So, but it's tricky to say because we could say, "Oh, this is the eternal Kali." So, Kali come. This is the eternal Nitya Kali, right? This is eternal. So this is so. But historically, we can answer it different ways. Historically, you can also say, this form has not been worshipped for. It's fairly recent in worship, right? It's not the most ancient revelation, not the ancient form. But I'm not going to say that this is a made up, a new form, because it's recent. It's a new revelation and become popular. So who was it revealed to? The mantra we get, this image is carved and image is made according to the Dhyan mantra, according to the Dhyan sloka. And actually in traditional cultures, a sculptor will not make an image unless it matches a Dhyan sloka, right? Because I want a Kali like this. And nowadays maybe people do, but still, I know people who's like, oh, you have to convince them. No, I won't make this image. No, it's in. Look, this is the verse, right? And then they all have to ask my guru. I have to ask the acharya of the ashram whether or not it's okay, whether it's legitimate. You can't just make it up, right? Nowadays, people paint all kinds of things, and it's okay. It shows to me, it shows their creativity in visualizing Ma, right? But these forms have been seen by rishis. Everything okay? These forms have been seen by rishis, right? And they're describing either what they saw, right? They have a vision and describe what they saw. I saw Kali. She has in this hand. She has a severed a sword. She describes like that, right? Or it's describing what they realize in a way that we can be visualized. Maybe they had a transcendent beyond name and form, beyond description, overwhelmed, and I sometimes think they bring their mind way down to the level of vision, of image, and form and name, and begin to give words or a picture, description of it, right? Which one of these we can't say. I think both of them. Some mantras, I think the evidence is of both, right? Whether it's their realization that's beyond language, verbalized in language and in form, or they had a vision and they're describing their form. And Sri Ramakrishna described, I saw Sita. I saw a lady. I had a vision. It was open eye. His first open eye vision. Right. I was in the Panchavati, and this beautiful woman came out of the Ganga. I think I may get this wrong. Please forgive. Right. And I've never seen somebody so beautiful. And she had a slight smile that had sadness in her face. Right. And I go, who is this woman? Standing here alone, and I may be adding, standing alone in the Panchavati. Right. And then a monkey jumps out of the tree and worships her. And I thought maybe it's Sita, must be Sita. And then she came and embraced me and it got absorbed into me. So he describes. So we mentioned last week, or 2 weeks ago, even Holy Mother's bracelets he designed according to the vision of Sita. He's never seen that type of twisted bracelet that Holy Mother wore. That wasn't the common bracelet design, right? Since then, it's become a little more because everybody sees pictures of Holy Mother wearing this bracelet, right? So that's a vision he saw describing. You want to know what Sita looks like? We know what type of bracelet she wore, right? So that's that type of vision. But sometimes it may be something completely undescribable, right? And I would think like you bring the mind way down, and the way I can describe her, she's like this, right? And then you describe like but even the vision, even if it's described in an actual visual revelation, right? Each detail of it's going to be extremely mystical and deep, right? Because it's the infinite appearing. So every aspect of the infinite, when it appears as something as if finite, it's going to be infinite. Each detail is going to be infinite also. So this image of Ma Kali that's become popular, right? Actually, it's from the 16th century. It's not that old, right? Relatively, right? And it first appears in a book called the Tantra Sara. This is a Bengali text. It's in Sanskrit. It's not Bengali. It's a text from Bengal, should we say that, right? By a great tantric adept, Krishnananda Angama Vagisha. Angana Vagisha. Pronounce it properly. Right. He's believed to be born, 1575, around that time. This is his time. And he was a great tantric. And he's in the area, not exactly Navadvip, but he's part of the Navadvip renaissance of philosophy and religion. And we know, of course, the other famous person, the most famous person that's come down in modern times is Sri Chaitanya, right, who taught the new form of Vaishnavism. But we know in his life that before he was a great teacher of Vaishnavism, he had a logic school, right? We know he was a teacher of Nyaya philosophy and logic and grammar, right? Because Navadvip was a seat of that. And there's many stories where, who was the Pandit who came to defeat him? Lord Chaitanya was defeated. Like he was defeated in every way to get a boon of Saraswati. Remember who that is? Something, no, but there's a famous, it's embarrassing that I'm forgetting, but there's like, to make a name for yourself in those days, you have to go and defeat somebody in Navadvip, right? Yet, like now, before that it was in Benares. You went to Benares and you found the head of a school and you defeated him. That's how it went, right? Right. So Navadvip at Bengal at one time was not what it was a seat of tremendous, still, but it was really a seat of tremendous culture. Vishnupur and all these, it was architecture and philosophy and then music, gharanas was out of Vishnupur, one of the main, now we don't even think of these things anymore. They're all, the culture, the seats of learning have moved to Benares, right? But Bengal was quite something. And so out of Navadvip came four main revolutionary schools of thought, right, by four famous saints or acharya, as you would call them, right? One is Raghunatha. He also out of Navadvip area. He was the founder of the school of logic that Chaitanya was originally a teacher of, it seems, if we understand properly. Navya Nyaya. Then Raghunananda, another person. He was the teacher of a Smriti school of thought, scriptural school of thought. Then Lord Chaitanya himself, we consider him to be the founder or the preacher of a new form, Navya Vaishnavism, which we now call Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And then Krishnananda, we call it Navya Tantra, a new school of Tantra, of Bengali, an integrator of Bengali Tantra. And in the Tantra Sara is full of all kinds of hymns and all kinds of slokas, mantras, bij mantras, nyasas, and dhyan slokas, like that describe, right? And it's believed that he collected existing literature, right? Some of these things are very old mantras or from tantras and like that. He collected like that. But this one, there's no, the Dhyan Mantra for Kali, of Dakshina Kali, it doesn't exist in a previous text, as far as we know. So there's a story of how he came to it. Whether the story is true, I'm not sure. It's 500 years ago plus, right? But it's very interesting. So it says that, I'm sure I have a few notes here. Okay. It says that one day in a vision, he had a vision of Kali, or a realization of Kali, a voice or a vision, saying, tomorrow I'm going to appear in a form, right? You should popularize this as my form of worship, right? You'll see, so you'll have a vision tomorrow, right? And that's the form that you should popularize in Bengal, right? And so the next day, he was, if we understand the story, we take the story first historically, literally, perhaps. He was out and he saw I would say tribal woman, dark-skinned woman of the time, right? And she was with long hair, right? And she was making cow dung patties and sticking them onto the wall like that, that type of thing, right? Right, and he saw, could this be her, right? And then when she was standing in a way, actually, the name of the pose is important. Alida was standing with one foot forward, her right foot forward, a particular pose, right? And he saw her this way, and then so the story goes, seeing him, right? Oh my God, you caught me doing, and she became embarrassed and stuck out her tongue. Right? This is not a very well-known story, right? That type of thing. And it's a very Bengali thing where you stick your tongue out, Jaima, stick your tongue and bite your tongue. We have, even in English, we have the bite your tongue, or, we have did like that, right? This later got developed in Bengal, the idea why Ma sticks her tongue. And there's a whole story where she stepped on Shiva and then realized she stepped on her husband and stuck out her tongue. But that's not the source of it. That was developed definitely later in terms of devotional poetry. But this is that and then so he composed his mantra based upon this image, right? Was her sticking her tongue, was her right hand, was her right foot forward, right? So that story is true. I don't know, right? But this is the source of where he believed where he wrote the mantra. So, but it's based upon a previous vision. It says, I'm going to appear to you in a form. You'll see me in a form, right? In a human form, right? That's the form I want to be worshipped in. Propagate this, spread this type of puja. And so as a result, you could say this form of Dakshina Kali, right, has become, in Bengal, it's the form of Kali worshipped in Bengal, right? And bit by bit has become the form of Kali worship, partially because of in Ramakrishna and the Ramakrishna tradition has spread beyond Bengal also. And that's the form, in case you're wondering, that's also the form worshipped in Laguna Beach, right here at Kali Mandir, right? Dakshina Kali. Now, Dakshina, also, what does Dakshina mean? People know in Hindi or Sanskrit or Bengali, Dakshina means? It means right. It means? What else does it mean?
South.
It means south. Has both these meaning, right?
Southward.
Yeah, southward. So this could be, I don't know enough linguistics and history of development of word, but there's a general understanding of how this word Dakshina came. I'll give the general traditional understanding. A scholar may give details that correct me. But Dakshina, we have this word also in common spiritual life. Dakshina is when you give a holy gift to an offering to a priest or to the guru, or like this, you give Dakshina, right? And when you give Dakshina, a holy gift, right, an auspicious gift, right, you give it always with your right hand, right? There's a thing where you give certain things with your right hand. And so Dakshina, as the giving of the gift, became connected to the right. That's one view, right? And so Kali, you see on her right side, she's giving, right? It's connected, it's believed to be connected like this, that her giving hand is her right hand. She's giving connected like this. But then how is it connected to Dakshina, in Dakshina as south? That there's another story, won't tell the full details of it, but that Yama, the god of death, his direction, in the directional deities, every direction has a deity attached to it, right? The way it spreads. And so This is east, right? East is Indra, right? Am I going the right direction? East, then that's east, south, southeast. I'm very bad at the southeast. I'll just point. Southeast is Agni, Agni Kone, right? This is Yama, god of death, south, right? Southwest is Rakshasa, Nitya, Alakshmi, chaos, ghosts, demons, chaos, inauspiciousness comes from that corner, right? From the west is Varuna, water, right? From the northwest, I get this right, is Vayu, air, right? In the north is Kubera, god of wealth, right? And the northeast is Ishanekone, Shiva. That's why you put your Trishul in a duni on that corner, right? There's even Shiva, our Shiva shrines on this corner for that reason, right? Ishanekone, where Shiva is, right? So Yama he was coming, and then he saw Kali, and he got frightened and ran, horrified. So she's frightening to death, right? We're all terrified of death, maybe some more than others, you know. We're terrified. Everybody's at least a little bit scared, a little worried about death, if not frightened, horrified of death, right? But death is scared of Kali, right? And there's certain forms of Kali. There's a mantra, the Nrishingadev mantra, Ugram Bira Mahavishnum, Jwalantam Sarvadam, Nrishingam Mrityo Mrityum Namamyaham. She, Narashinga, these fierce form of Vishnu, he's the death of death, right? He kills death. Right, of course, we could mean birth and death. Maybe he destroys the cycle of birth and death and liberate, or he can kill death. So even death. That's why this mantra keeps death away. These Nishingadev mantras keep death is scared when approach somebody who has Nishingadev on this side. So similarly, Kali is such a deity that death. She's more frightening than death, right? Or she holds death. And so Dakshina also means right. It means south, and Dakshina Kali is also south-facing Kali, right? So actually here we've made a mistake. Not a mistake, but Ma should face that way. In Dakshineshwar she faces south. Right? Right? We couldn't, when we built the temple, we couldn't manage it. Right? So this is appropriate for a temple. We have a north east-west facing orientation. That's mostly for most deities like that. But Dakshina Kali faces south, Bhairava faces south, and Hanuman faces south. Right? Because all of these keep death away. Right? They're looking in that direction. Death will not approach. This is a belief, right? That even death won't approach, right? And there's a saying, there's a little in astrology, a little bit superstitious edges of astrology. It's like, well, if you die on a Tuesday, or if you die on a Saturday, you'll become a ghost. It's like that. It's an auspicious death, right? It's not a good day. It's not a good day to die. There's good days to die. There aren't good days to die. But what do? On those days, you worship Shiva. Bhairava, you worship Kali, Saturdays and Tuesdays, and Hanuman. You know, it's like because their presence keeps death away, right? It makes an inauspicious day auspicious. If you think of these things as inauspicious, right? So south is an inauspicious direction, right? And so so it's connected to this way. So let's look at her. 45 minutes to word one. Dakshina Kali Dhyanam from the Tantra Sada of Krishnananda. Om Kara Varadam Goram. Right? Karala Varada Goram. We have the word gore, right? You know, that's gory, right? Right. It's related. I can't make it direct, but it's related. It's considered related, right? So many words like that have a source, right? Means frightening, right? Horrible, awesome, right? Awesome and horrible. That's just in English. They have different meanings, right? But actually, they don't. You know, it's like something's wonderful. Like look at wonderful and awful. Awful means full of awe, and wonderful means full of wonder. They're the same word, but by usage, there's a term in the meaning has migrated, right? Where now one means really, really bad, one means really, really good. But actually the same type of thing. To say something is horrible, like, or wonderful, or awesome, or overwhelming, or bewildering, or like stupendous, all these is it a good word? It's a bad word? It's you know, the supreme reality is tremendous. Maybe that's a better word. Tremendous, right? Ghora, Karavrada Ghoram. She's tremendous. She's fearful and fearsome, or tremendous, and has a gaping mouth. Now we have to go back. As soon as we finish this, we'll go back to our old series of Bhagavatam and Kali Sahasranama. I'm missing Kali Sahasranama talks, especially now because every point of this mantra we've almost everyone we've mentioned in our Kali Sahasranama talks, right? And so one of them is describing her as gaping mouth, fearsome teeth, Goradamstram, fearful teeth and fangs and all these. We've described these type of things, right? So I don't want to. You can, I mean, if you have time, there's 30 hours of talks on the Kali Sahasranama. You can also scroll through and find these type of topic where each one is developed, you know, very elaborately with gaping mouth. But the gist of it, we can see. If you're attributing meaning, it could just mean that Krishnananda saw her and she had a big, giant, gaping mouth. And he wrote, she has a tremendous gaping mouth, right? But if we then to attribute interpretation, meaning to this, right, which yogis, and I'm not making this stuff, this is traditionally done by yogis and tantrics, they've given meanings. The rishis that have commented on these things have given possible ways of entering these things. This gaping mouth? It's an image a lot in tantric iconography, and it's often seen as like a cavern, like the opening of a cave, right? It's a cave that's like it's frightening, but it opens a whole other world. That's one way to interpret, right? Then also from a gaping mouth comes a sound will come, a tremendous sound, right? So this is from the rush of the one becoming everything. That comes with that's also a big part of her symbolism, is her severed heads, the alphabet, vibration. It's like the rush of vibration. The first thing is like she's a tremendous sound, right? And then also her teeth and like this. These have been given. These are everything is destroyed. She creates everything. She swallows everything. She's time. All these type of things are mentioned as part of that. Go Karara Goram Muktakeshim. Muktakeshi. Muktakeshim is flowing, free flowing hair, right? Her hair is unbounded hair, right? And we gave probably 2.5 hours talks on her unbounded hair, right? And to give it many, it's hard to, too many topics to talk about her hair. There's whole academic doctoral dissertations on the meaning of hair in Hindu iconography. You know, Adi sent me several of them. We went through some of these things. You know, but she can't. One of the things we mentioned in our talks on Kali Sahasranama is that one of the meanings of hair, when somebody binds their hair, and when an unbounded hair, you can see it has a different meaning. Like when you bind, like before puja, you tie your hair up, right? You tie your hair, right? And when you're in mourning, you untie your hair, right? There's something about, or you at home you let down your hair. You say, oh, you let down your hair, relax, right? The hair represents, it's not just hair, right? Letting down your hair has a correspondence to something else. And if we consider Kali, the goddess, to be also Prakriti, and not just Prakriti, but also like manifest Prakriti as nature, as the forest. And you can say she's a forest goddess. She's Vindhyavasini, who comes from the jungles of the forest, from the tribal regions, the so the forest, the jungle, even better, the jungle idea, right, is untamed nature, wild, right? Nature is supreme in the forest. And what we do is, some people are really good at forest dwelling, right? And ancient people, what they do, they live in their little village, in their hut, right? And then they go out into the forest, and they hunt and gather, right? And then come back, right? It's dangerous. They go and they find what they can, they hunt and they gather what they can, right? They're dependent on Mother Nature, right? Very much like this, right? This is given a very anthropological interpretation of her hair, but this has been given, so I'm repeating, and we've established this line of reasoning before, right? But what happens when you slowly realize, it's like those seeds we're gathering, right? And those animals we're hunting, right? We can also take those seeds and plant them, right, in the village or near the village, right? And it's less dangerous and more reliable, right? Going out hunting is one of the things than raising your animals, right? Agriculture and animal culture and things like this, right? Right? It changes things, right? But what happens then? In a certain sense, we even say a domesticated nature. That species has been domesticated, right? Now, rather than wild things that are in control and you hope to get a little bit of part of it, you're in control, seemingly, right? You decide what lives, what dies. You decide what animals mate and procreate. You decide what seeds grow and what season. Obviously you can't all the time. Nature still wins out, right? There can be, one fluctuation, one extra rain, everything's washed away. It hails and your farm is destroyed, But this is a domestication is if hair is seen in Indian religion to be when you tie a woman with tied hair is a married woman, right? And therefore is controlled. Sorry for the gendered, but this is the patriarchal gendered nature of the way history has unfolded, fortunately, unfortunately, right? Where humans control nature or men control women this way, right? We're now it's bound, it's domesticated under our control, right? And so that's an interesting thing that Kali, by being Muktikeshi, she's undomesticated. She's not controlled by mankind, by humans, by men in that sense, the gender neutral sense, but she's definitely not controlled by a man, right? That's for sure, right? Not even Shiva. She's standing on Shiva. She's not being the dutiful wife, right? She's not Parvati. She's not Lakshmi. She's not Saraswati, right? She's different, right? So that's a very interesting image, The same thing, actually, in the very maybe. And a few mantras later, it will describe her as Digambari, naked. Now, it's a very philosophically thing, but also a similar thing, a naked goddess and a clothed goddess. They're going to have a similar thing. A naked goddess is untamed, uncovered, right, unsocialized. Clothing is a social thing, right? We see, even in the news recently, there's a few people left that are uncontaminated by Western culture, by modern culture, it's like that. And these are the naked tribes of certain islands, almost, until a few days ago, almost untouched. We'll see what happens, So the naked goddess with unbound hair, she's completely free. There's other meaning. We get to her Digambara has many meanings, but I'm using this kind of anthropological meaning, right? So that's Kali, Chamunda, these mantras for these fierce forms of the goddess. Then you have another form, you have Durga. Durga is described, she also has unbound hair, but she's dressed in a sari, right? So that's an interesting thing. She's not controlled by man or by a man, but by both of those meanings, right? But she's disposed, right? She's pleasantly disposed to bless and serve and fight for man or a man, right? So she comes and kills Mahishasura, right? And like this, she comes with both unbound, her hair, you see, during Durga Puja, she's always shown with wild hair, right? But beautifully dressed, right? So she's accepted certain relationship with society, but she's still in control. She's still free, right? But then you see, can't say poor Parvati, right? She's a dutiful wife, right? It's a different form. Also, no human is only one thing or many things. No woman is only one thing. She's many things. And no goddess or the supreme goddess. Literally, she's everything, not just one thing, right? She's become everything, including every aspect. So this is one way of interpreting her wild hair. But there's a mantra that also says that every strand of hair is a jiva. That's an interesting thing. That's an interesting little detail. So these are, all of us are free, right? But we're free, but attached to her. Right? That's another point, right? And also, it's in the Kali Sahasram, it says Muktakeshi, beautiful hair, long hair, and unbound hair. I'm forgetting Muktakeshi. I'm forgetting. I forget. They're all like Keshi, but I'm forgetting. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. But also, this means this whole thing that comes from her, this wildness that comes from her. It's being long means that she's mature, right? It also means, because that's somebody who has long hair, they've been at this a long time. But also, long also means, is also young, right? So she's both, it's a sign of maturity and youth, right? Very interesting, right? And it's beautiful. So everything about her is beautiful. Everything about us, the jivas, are also beautiful and free, right? So here she's also Muktakeshi. When we got to her name before, I mentioned in Dakshineshwar, there's a famous temple called Muktakeshi Devi, right? It's walking distance from 15-20 minute walk from the temple. Like the village of Dakshineshwar, where Dakshineshwar Kali temple is named after Baba Dakshineshwar. It's an old Shiva lingam. And just next to Baba Dakshineshwar, Thakur used to go, is a temple called to Muktakeshi. Beautiful, bright blue goddess, right? And every time I go, I always go see, because Usha's mom's name is on a plaque there in memory of her, right? I always go to see Ma, Shiva, and the plaque of Usha's mom. And I always say Ma, because there she has, the way she's carved, the image has a top knot tied up, and she has no wig or anything with long hair. It's like, your name is one with unbounded hair, and they've tied your hair up. And also, she's this big deity, quite big, and she's in a fairly small temple, right? So you see almost like they've taken like the infinite being and kind of shoved her into this little tiny little village temple, which I think is also a thing. She's still infinite and she's still free, even though they've carved her with bound hair and put her in a small little temple with iron grills that those deities. We even caged them, make sure they don't get out. The way it is. So, anyways, Muktakeshim Chaturbhujam. Chaturbhujam means with 4 arms. Now this is describing her form. There are some forms of Kali. Josh recently gave us a beautiful picture of Bengali form of Kali with 2 arms, right? And actually, the Dhyan Mantra in the Tantra Sara, I believe, for Smashan Kali, this is a detail, thinking about the picture you gave us, describes her having 2 arms. Right, it's interesting. Usually we think of Smashan Kali is different, but actually the Dhyan Sloka has her with 2 arms, which is interesting. But this Dakshina Kali is said with 4 arms. But she doesn't have 4 arms. She has 4, in the Kali Sahasram it says Chaturbhujam, Ashtabhujam, Dasabhujam, Surashabhujam, Sahasrabhujam, all these different names are there. She has 4 arms, she has 8 arms, she has 10 arms, she has 16 arms, she has 100 arms, she has 1,000 arms. All these names are there, right? So in iconography, iconography is a language, right? And so in theology or philosophy, we'd say, oh, God is omnipotent, omniscient, so omnipotent means all-powerful, really powerful, right? And then omniscient means all-knowing, right? So we can say those words and give a definition, give a dictionary. You can look it up on Google and then click on that and you follow that and get all the nice definitions, right? The way we do it nowadays, right? But if you were to show it not in words but in a symbolic language, right? An image, in a carving or a painting, right? One thing you could do to show omnipotence, all powerful or very powerful, is arms are usually the sign of omni's power, right? So many arms is one of the symbols of having much power. To say somebody's all-knowing, well, you could show, how would you show that? Well, maybe many faces, right? He faces many faces or many eyes, right? For the past, present, and future. You can give that type of language, the type of image, right? So the arms are her powers and potencies, her aspects, right? We actually see here when Tantric told us, actually we're not seeing all of her arms. She has 1,000 arms, right? We're seeing her imagine, you've seen those images of like 1,000 arms, these beautiful paintings. Imagine the top one and the bottom one on this side, and the top one and the bottom one on this side, right? So you have and so in between these two, there's unlimited, right? So it's the full spectrum, right? So we're only seeing the two extremes, right? And we see the world of duality. We've mentioned this before. When we say the world of duality, it's a very common thing to see blessing and a sword, right? And a fearlessness and a sword. Those seem to be opposite, right? Fear and fearlessness, right? You can't get too opposite than that. And down is blessing and death. These are two opposites, right? But they're not opposites, right? They're two extremes, right? The opposite of birth isn't death, right? Between birth, it's not just birth or death. It's not a binary system. It's either this or that. There's birth and the exact moment after birth, the exact moment after that, the exact moment after that, the exact moment, all the way to death, right? These are two extremes of every variety of experience. We're between light and dark. These are two big extremes. That's a clear binary system. There's infinite shades of gray between white and black, or light and dark, right? Between night and day, between health and sickness, between war and peace. How many stages in between? These are we think of them. We think in duality, but they're not dual. They're not a binary system. Not classical duality. It's a full range of multiplicity, every possible experience, right? So these are every possible experience, and so this is actually a very bold. We've mentioned this before. A very bold approach to reality. And when I first came to Kali, when Usha mentioned that this is Kali devotees it's a brave view of existence. What we usually do is, we meaning mankind, humankind in religion, very often in many religions, maybe some of you have heard about, I mentioned there's an all good God that controls all the good stuff that happens, that we pray to for all the good stuff, right? And there's an all bad version, maybe in some form, in the original form, an anti-God, right? Or at least a bad guy that seems to have a lot of power. Even if he's not God, he's given a lot of power, right? And so all the bad comes from him, and all the good comes from the other him. That makes sense, right? And so that's a way of dealing with the realities and unpleasantries and hopes and fears of life, right? But this image of Kali, which we'll learn, is full of this idea that the one has become everything, right? We haven't got there, but she's standing on Shiva. Shiva is supreme ground of being. He's existence itself, right? And she, with her step forward, she's manifesting him. So that Brahman, that infinite consciousness, is then manifest as everything, right? Both what we would consider good, pleasant, healthy, wonderful, prosperous, happy, successful, this side, and some version of our actual life on this side, for frustration and health problems and money problems and bad hair days or whatever the car won't start, whatever, We have the full experience. So she's birth is divine. So there's Swami. There's a beautiful video if you click around of Swami Lakshmanju, where he's talking. There's a talk on talks in the Bhagavad Gita, and he says in one place they mentioned to him because Kashmir has a lot of problems, and problems haven't gone away, as you know, but that time there was a lot of problems. It was more fresh, the original source of the problems. And they brought up what was happening in Kashmir and how many people had been killed in the recent riot that had happened there like that. And trying to get, he's a Kashmirian, his ashram's in Kashmir, so he's going to give some perspective. But he did, the video is quite, I get emotional thinking about it. It's quite not the expected. I know my perspective is we have to fight them and defend our India and Kashmir. We get our emotional, especially when you hear something where, innocent people are being killed and our community has been threatened, and it elicits all that emotional response. But his eyes well up with tears, but not tears of, oh my God, those poor people are suffering. We need to help them, right? He says, birth is divine, death is divine, right? Peace is divine, war is divine. It's like, but it's almost so he goes into like a blissful state. right? That's the image of Kali. Everything is divine. Not that everything is pleasant, not that we should want to suffer, but even if you don't want to suffer, you're going to suffer. Not that we should want to die, but believe it or not, you're all going to die. We're all, not you. I'm not attacking you. I'm not cursing you either. May you all live a long, healthy, happy life. That's my. In spite of my blessing to pray for all of you to live a long, healthy life, some of us will not live happy, long, or healthy lives. Right? That's not the reality. It's like, but it's not a mistake either. Right? This is the expression of the Divine Mother as the world, as the full spectrum of the world, right? With 1,000 arms, or at least 4 arms listed here, right? It's very bold to see her. So that what we call good and we call evil, these are just from our perspectives, right? It's like these are our value judgments, and it's natural. We make value judgment. That's where value judging, value assigning beings, one of the human definitions, right? And as we mature, our value judgments on what we see and experience will change. But at the highest state, you think that to have every experience, be able to take it to its source and to see what it actually is, as expression of the Divine Mother herself, the divine consciousness itself. Muktikesham Chaturbhujam. And we'll mention what she's holding in her arms. You'll mention them in a few verses. So I'm going to run out of time if I keep. Kalikam Dakshina Divyam. Kalikam, this is her name. Kalikam Dakshinam. Dakshina Kali. It says Kali Dakshina. We'd say Dakshina Kali in the way we normally phrase it, right? And so this is, again, what is this form? The form that has, that Krishnananda saw as a tribal girl working with cow dung patties with her right foot forward, right? That's one the thing, but also here Dakshina Kali is a form of Kali that's worshipped in the home, the form of Kali that's worshipped in the temple, right? There's other forms of Kali. Another name for Dakshina Kali is Shama Kali. Right, it's a benign, you can say benign form of Kali, right? So Kali is benign and non-benign. She's everything, right? But we give emphasis, right, to a certain aspect, right? In the Dakshina Kali form, the emphasis is given to her benign fact, because Dakshina means giving auspiciously, right? And keeping inauspiciousness away, looking towards the south and keeping it away, and putting forth the right hand, giving auspicious, holy things, blessings. Her blessing side is being, to say Dakshina Kali means the right side. These are the fearlessness and the boon giving, right? Right. To say Vama Kali, the left side. This is the sword and the severed head. It's the other side of it, right? So sometimes we emphasize that. We may not. It's tricky to invoke that. Who wants to invoke death, right? But there are people, at least sannyasis are supposed to worship Smashan Kali or Vama Kali, right? Because we want everything to be destroyed. We want all ignorance to be destroyed, all name and form itself to be destroyed. We want to find like that. But that's a tricky thing to pray for when you have, it's like dependence, and you have a family, and you have a mortgage, and college tuition coming up, or whatever it is, it's like, so then the other stuff becomes symbolic. And, in Kali Puja, we think of these type of things, right? But actually, we pray. People come here, Ma, please bless me. Little children are brought here for their first rice eating ceremony, and we place little babies on their first outing on the shrine. You think of the other mantras of Kali. She's standing in the cremation ground among burning bodies and howling jackals, right? And inauspicious spirits and dakinis and yoginis screeching like that. Right, with tongue protruding and with a skull like that, and you're going to bring a little baby and put it in front of her? You actually, those type of forms, you say, Ma, please stay away from my family. Alakshmi, you keep away, right? Not, you don't invoke, right? But the fact that people bring their babies here, and we all come here again, and Ma, please bless us, my relationship, and there's this boy I like, or this girl, and I need a good job, and I'm working really hard on my test, and it would be good if you all the type of things we do, and we come to her like a loving mother, like Lakshmi, like Saraswati, like Parvati, like Annapurna, right? But if we look behind, she has unfettered hair, right? The symbolism is of the cremation ground. Rather than blood, we have red cloth and red flags, kumkum, red bracelets, right? Right. The symbolism is all there, but now we emphasize the dakshina side, the right side, or the right foot, or the right direction, or the looking of the. So we're invoking an auspicious, benign form of Kali. So Sri Ramakrishna said the Shama Kali or Dakshina Kali is a form worshipped in the home, right? So this is this is what you want, and who do you invoke in your home? You invoke auspiciousness, you invoke Lakshmi, prosperity, happiness, health, right? As well as spiritual advance. We don't want health, happiness, prosperity instead of spiritual advancement. So we know we're still invoking a fierce, a very shaktified, very strong form, right? Whose first mantra is who's tremendous, right? Gora, Goram. But her Dakshina side is Dakshina Kalika Divyam. Divyam means divine. We worship the divine Dakshina Kali, right? Because you could see some people will look at Dakshina Kali and say, "Oh, she's a demon," right? Is she a demon? Do you know the answer? There's one correct answer to this from the Chandi. What's the verse?
Mahadevi Mahasuri.
Yeah, there's the mantra, Mahadevi Mahasuri. She is the great goddess and the great demoness. She's everything, right? That's the point. You know, it's like so. But here, she's not mentioned. The Mahasuri is not mentioned in this mantra, right? She's the great goddess, the divine goddess, right? So we're worshiping that side, but she's both sides. That's the thing, right? Kalikam Dakshinadevya Munnamala Vibhushitam, right? She's adorned. Vibhushana means to be adorned by something, right? It was like when mantras are described as adorned with golden jewelry, right? But here, what's her golden jewelry? Munnamala. She has a mala, a rosary, or a garland. A mala is probably garland here, of heads, munda, right? And so it can be in the Kali Sahasranama it mentions a mundamala, means of heads. It also mentions there's another word for skulls, right? So sometimes it's seen as severed heads or as skulls, right? Actually, Ma in her image here carved is severed heads, right? That's the most common thing you see, but we have also on top of it in crystal we have crystal skulls, right? So both of them are there, and they have different meanings, and we gave 3 hours of talks on the meaning of severed heads and skulls and like that, and like that. But in relating to this Dhyan mantra, the way it's usually understood, when it says Karavagoram, with gaping mouth and a tremendous sound, right? This first mantra, that means that that Shiva is manifesting, God, the transcendent God, is manifesting as the immanent in the world, as the world. That happens through vibration, right? So if we think of the motionless Brahman, Nirakar Brahman, and then what's this? This is Sakar Brahman. This is a manifested Brahman, right? So when something is motionless and it becomes in motion, that happens through motion, right? So it's vibrationless, and then vibration happens via vibration, right? Through movement. So you can imagine like beginning to stir, right? That stir, that beginning of vibration, that's actually what the Sri Yantra or the Kali Yantra represents. That's the dot over the Om, the Chandra Bindu and the mantra Om. The center of a Yantra is a place where within unmoving, undifferentiated, still consciousness, even within that absolutely still infinite consciousness, there is a potency, Shakti. It's what actually in Tantra they call it Swatantriya. Within it, intrinsic, there is some energy, some nature, some will. Nobody knows why or where, but there's a nature, there's a potency to manifest. Why? Because Swatantriya. We can't ask that reason, right? It's by her own nature, by its own nature. So there is, within the one, there is, I sometimes like imagine a still thing of water and boom, a pulse. That's Swatantriya, right? The bindu. That bindu begins some vibration, right? That vibration we call Om. The vocalized Om is the vocalized, but you trace back Om to the mental Om and to the Pada. There's different ways of meditating to trace it back to its to the if you trace, Sri Ramakrishna said, how do you meditate on Om? It's like hitting a gong. Gong. You trace that sound. The M becomes, the Chandra Bindu makes it a nasal that allows it to vibrate longer. So you can trace the sound where? To the silence. Right? So you can trace the sound to the source of sound by reversing it. It's hard to hear the sound, the silence, and then follow the sound out, but you can start from the sound and trace it back. It can be done to every thought and every word and every image, but it's hard. Om is perfectly situated because of the nature of the sound can be traced, right? As you trace the sound, you're actually tracing it to where it comes from, not where it's going. It's coming and going to the same place, from and to the same place, right? Right, so from that initial sound, Om, right, that first vibration happens, and Om is a single syllable sound, Om, right? But if you think about it, actually, sometimes we spell it Aum, right? So now one sound becomes three sounds. How is that possible? It's Om is one sound, but you can think, oh, I can see how it's made of Aum, right? And Swami Vivekananda in his I think in Raja Yoga, he mentioned Raja Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, I'm forgetting, but he mentions how this mantra Om, maybe in Bhakti Yoga, how this mantra Om, he says it's all possible sounds, right? You start the back of the throat, the first possible sound, Ah, right? And the last possible sound with the lips closed, right? And in between is the from this position to the final position, Ah, U, you know. So by doing that, you're saying all possible vowels, right? We can then separate the vowels and into and ah, and e, and u, and you can do the Sanskrit vowels or the English equivalents, right? Simplified English equivalents, right? So that's the Om is all possible sounds, right? What are consonants? They're breaks in that pure single. In the single sound, that's actually three sounds. That's actually all sounds. You see how Om becomes A-U-M, but that really is all possible sounds. All the letters, every possible variation, right? So it's one, that's three, that's all, right? That's from one to three to all. Actually, we've talked about this before. It's 1 to 2 to 3 to all, right? So if you get, let's say a little more, okay. I can't get too philosophical here, but in 10 minutes or less. I'm going to get a little philosophical for 10 minutes. In Tantra, there is we've mentioned this before, but I want to do it specifically in this context for these talks. There's the idea of, we have this idea of Prakash, who's right now installing our lights outside, perfectly because Prakash means light, right? Pra means to illumine, to shine, to light, and Akasha means space, right? But not like the space of, so it's a space of light, or sometimes described as in poetic English like the light of consciousness, the light of awareness, a prakasha, right? Akasha, prakasha. And then, but so light, in order to, if you had a light in a dark, if you put a light on in a dark space that has nothing to shine on, right? It doesn't shine on anything. It has to have something to shine on in order to say, oh, that it hits. So in order for the light to be light in one's aspect, it has to shine on something, but there's only itself. So the one, by definition, if the one is consciousness, it has to be conscious of something, right? If the one is awareness, it has to be aware of something. But there's not anything in the non-dual, in the one, there's nothing to be aware of. So to be awareness has to imply, in some sense, something to be aware of. So what can it be aware of? It can only be aware of itself, right? If the knower you can't be a knower unless you know something, but there's nothing to know. So you can only know yourself, right? You can only see yourself. There's nothing else to see if you could see something. So to have one implies two, right? So there you have your basic duality of Shiva and Shakti, Prakriti, Purusha, and all those type of separate. In Tantra, it's Prakash and Vimarsha. Vimarsha means a reflection, right? A reflected, right? But as soon as you have two, you have three. To have if I'm the seer and I see something, automatically there's seeing. If there's a hearer and a heard, there's hearing. If there's a thinker and a thought, there's thinking. Right? So the 1 is 2 is 3 automatic. This is kind of the basic, like it's a simultaneous thing. But once you do that, then you have everything. You have every variety of thought. One thought, you don't just have one thought. You don't just see one thing. You see everything. Right? Even that everything, but that everything is only one thing or only 3 things. Right? That's the thing that the Trinitarian idea is essential. The dualistic idea is essential, and the non-dual reality is essential. Right? So in vibration, Shiva begins to vibrate. That vibration becomes first the world of duality, right? Psychologically, it becomes subject and object, right? Experiential, it's birth and death, pain and pleasure, health, happiness, misery, or success, failure, all those type of things, right? Ontologically, or more philosophically, it becomes subject and object, and thinker and thought, and that type of duality, and that becomes, so you have the world duality, and you have the world of Trinity, right? Aum, and then it becomes everything, right? Every possible thing. So that one sound becomes the 3 sounds Om, which becomes all sound, which we would say all letters or all syllables of the alphabet, all the different letters, right? And the essence of every letter, any letter in Sanskrit is obvious, but it's true in every language. We say ka, right? The ka actually is not ka, it's the letter, the consonant ka with an implied vowel right? It could be, you can put another vowel in, ki, ku, ka, ki, like that. But the sound, you can't even think you can't think the letter without an implied vowel, a letter. So that and it's in Shakta Tantra, the consonants are forms of Shiva, are masculine, and the vowel is Shakti. Without a vowel, a consonant, a letter can't be spoken, right? A letter is dead, right? Without Shakti, Shiva is Shava. Shiva is like Shava. This is the symbolism. Shiva lies like a corpse. Without Shakti is the thing that makes Shiva manifest, that makes language possible, makes thought possible, right? So the 1 becomes 2, becomes 3, and then becomes everything. And that's symbolized in this image of her garland of her munda mala, her garland of heads, right? And it's said to say, usually in a carving of an image, you have to make it aesthetically pleasing and easy to carve and easy to look at. So you make it fit. But actually it's described as having 50 or 54 letters, 54 skulls or severed heads, right? To represent all the different sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet, right? Whose essence, like in this, here's my mala of 50. This is very nice. This is 54 beads right here, right? Right. There's something in between all these beads that holds it together. There's a string right here that holds all the beads together, right? So within all these, there's something essential. Within all the sounds of sound, there is Om. There's the vowel that makes all these things possible, that holds it all together, right? So even when you see all the alphabet or all of creation, all name, all form, all manifestation, it's strung, Krishna says, like beads, strung, like pearls strung on a string. Everything is strung upon me, Krishna says, right? So it means we see, oh, the beautiful bead. But the problem between, you say, oh, it's a beautiful mala. Look at all those beautiful beads. And they are beautiful. They are very rare. This is a great darshan online here of it took 30 years to collect all these beautiful beads of rare Rudraksha beads. But it's like, oh, very beautiful. But actually, the thing that holds them together, that you don't see unless you're looking for it. Like, look right there. There's something in between. That we don't, the most essential part of a mala is a string, actually. Not the things that are strung, So, but that we don't know how to see. It's when we're doing japa and mantra, one of the tricks, this is one possible trick what we do in japa is to see where the sound comes from, right? The silence from which it comes, the mantra comes, and where it goes, right? If you can catch that, that's the unmanifested self, and the mantra is a manifested Brahman, right? It's a very deep thing. But anyway, so her munna mala, this is one interpretation, is the sound of the Sanskrit alphabet. But then sometimes you can ask, what? Like they're not just severed heads; they're demon heads. It's very interesting. They're always male heads, right? They're never female heads, right? I saw somebody do a painting that had a female. No traditional artist would do such a thing, It's somebody made that up, right? and they're demons, right? And so why demon heads, right? Because because you have to, of course, this is a Gothic, like I said, a Gothic vibe of Kali imagery is a little like we always say Halloweeny, and ghosts and goblins and like that, and cremation grounds. We emphasize that, right? But this is interesting because the manifested world, right, in a certain sense, it's the world of duality, right? We call it duality. It's the world of suffering. It's the world of birth and death. We can say, oh, birth is auspicious and death is inauspicious. But actually, we usually think mukti is not liberation from death, not living forever, or living a long life. It's liberation from birth and death. The whole thing is considered not, it has a quality, right? We want to be free from birth and death. We don't just want to be healthy. We want to be free from health and sickness, right? Transcend the world we want to transcend the world of duality, the world of multiplicity, right? To be free from it, right? So in a certain sense, manifested speech is considered slightly, can't say impure because she's the demon also, right? Even the demon is pure, right? In that sense, right? And also another verse in the Chandi, both gods and demons touch your feet, oh goddess, right? So, but the manifest is the crudest form of the subtle, the gross of the subtle, right? So Sri Ramakrishna sometimes described that what God is has never been spoken, and he uses this term jut or uchista, right? It means when something is like uchist or like uch is like, if probably American culture doesn't have the same samskar for it, but generally it's like anything that touches someone's mouth is considered unclean, right? Jut or muchi or something like that. Uchista. He uses the word uchista. It means it's been defiled by the mouth, right? Now, of course, we eat, and so but we swallow with our own defilements. Okay, right? But the idea, like people like, oh, taste this, and they like that. It's like if somebody does that, it's due to great intimacy. People, child and mother, husband and wife, maybe intimately feed each other, like taste this and like that. Because you're breaking all the uncomfortableness was impurity, but it's considered impure at some level, or ritually impure at least, right? It's not shud, it's not pure, right? So Sri Ramakrishna said, actually, what God actually is has never been made. God is the one thing that's never been uchista, never been made impure. Means it's never touched anybody's lips. It's never been described, right? What God actually is has never been defiled by the lips. Yet, I've been giving a year now of classes on this beautiful book. Well, so you've listened to been defiled by my ghee and oil spilling, but what is are these mantras impure then? Right? In one sense, even the mantras are impure. Not really, but when you say, oh, the Vedas say this about Brahman, right? Is that Brahman, or is it, is that really about Brahman? Can it be? There's a mantra. I tell you, there's an extraordinary. Okay, it's time to. I have exactly 1 minute to go. I'll tell you an extraordinary line that's unique to the Vedas, right? We all know the scriptures tell us we have to follow the scriptures, right? No scripture will say don't follow the scriptures, right? Except the Vedas. The Vedas say, there's a beautiful mantra, Aveda Veda Bhava. The Vedas become not Vedas. Or in other words, the Vedas are not the Vedas. That's one way to say it. Or the Vedas become Bhava, not Vedas. Right? Because first eventually, when we know the truth, the Vedas are left behind. The Vedas are not the real Veda. Swami Vivekananda's opening talk at the Parliament of Religions, he gave his talk on Hinduism. He said, oh, the Vedas the Vedas are eternal and unending and never composed, right? Like we know that he's like that. But someone may ask, how can a book be without beginning and end? So, by the Vedas, no book is meant. So by the Vedas, no mantras are meant. No revelation is meant. The real Veda is beyond even the Vedas. You won't find many texts say that. I've not seen that in other common, like that's a unique thing to the Vedas. When one person told me there's an exit button, even hidden inside the Vedas, is the way beyond the Vedas, right? Beyond, in other words, within all this beautiful manifestation, divine, we see it is all divine. Still, there's a way beyond even this, right? but it's not beyond this so that this is gone, right? Like it's not like we can close our eyes and name and form are gone, right? But when we open our eyes, we're the same. Guruji said, the same fool we did before we closed our eyes, right? We go to sleep and we wake up the same fool, right? How to go to sleep and wake up in what the Bible says, a new heaven and a new earth, right? With new eyes, right? So even this expression, the mantras, the letters, the consonants, name and form itself is her, right? It's her and it's not her. It decorates her. Vibhushana. She's decorated. This is not me. It may represent me, but it's not me. It decorates me. So this whole world of name and form, in one sense, it's her. She's become everything, but it's the whole world of name and form is on her. Right. And therefore, one of her names is Jagadatri. Right. She holds the world. She holds everything. Right. Right. But even the impure world or pure world, whatever it is, the apara vidya and whatever, however you want to describe Indian philosophy, every school of Indian philosophy described it differently, right? But whatever it is, right? This whole world is her, and it's held by her, right? Gunashreya gunamai Narayana was this world of the gunas is permeated by you and held by you, and you enter into it, right? So we'll leave it there with some. Let's see where I got. Munnamala, that's pretty good. So we with his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's a 9 sloka Dhyana Mantra, and we did sloka 1. Pretty good. This is going to be good. Kravaragora muktakeshan tatudbujam kalikam dakshina divyam munnamala bhushitam. Fearsome with gaping mouth, freely flowing hair and 4 arms. The divine Dakshina Kali is adorned with a garland of heads. We'll end there tonight. Thank you for your kind attention. Oh, we have to watch this very carefully. So you have to do save.